episode of Tokin with Tim. We're still working on the name. We'll see if that's the one. But what we wanted to talk about is why people should be more willing to talk about what's going on in the skies. Are there chemicals in the skies? Should we know about it? What's the purpose? What's it do for our health? The world? So anyway, the guest to honor, Tim. And just let Tim run with it. If he wants my input, I'll chime in.
All right. Yeah, well, I guess what's always intrigued me is why people are so I don't understand, or they even more so if you don't see it. And I guess for me, it took like 3 years to realize what was happening. And I noticed from the ground up, rather than from the sky down, is that I started to see, well, I'll just call it chaff. I don't know any other word for it, but I went to take my dog for a walk, and I noticed everything was covered in this fine, clear, like a spider web. But then you try to grab it, and it didn't have the strength as spider web. You couldn't like collect it, but you could see it on everything. And at first, I was noticing something, because I shouldn't be granted with like, damn, dude, there's tons of spiders. Like, this is crazy. I put my dog down, and so I was holding my dog, and I was walking around, and I didn't see anything on my shoes or my legs, and I was so confused. I was like, what is going on? And after a while, I just let him put him down and run around, and we went about our business, and it happened several times. And so then I just Googled it or search engined it, and it said they're chemwebs, chemtrail debris, and I didn't understand what that meant. And then you keep researching it, you go down the rabbit hole, and you realize that they're spraying stuff above us. And people, I've seen the argument where people say, the upper atmosphere has changed, and now contrails can last hours, and they spread out to form clouds. But then how do you account for all the clear strands of fiber all over the ground? And I know people will say then, oh, it's little spiders, right? So the spiders put up the web and they float away to different clouds. That's how they disperse themselves. And that may be true, but that doesn't happen in December, and it doesn't happen in January, And not only that, where I live, I've never actually seen that phenomenon. The way I've known that phenomenon is from television, and I felt like that was in like Africa or Australia, classically warmer climates, even though where we live it's pretty warm and dry. But anyways, what I most worry is that...
Hey, hold on, before we go on about what your biggest worry is,
Yeah.
Would you point out to people that today's probably the clearest skies you've seen around here in a long time?
Absolutely. I mean, considering yesterday, if you look on the periphery, right? So you can see over here, it does, the cloud seems strangular-like, or like strands on the distance, while these up close, they're more classical clouds, where they seem fluffier, more natural. And it's the strands that I'm worried about. But this is the clearest day it's been in a long time. And if you look at the color of the sky is fairly homogenized, I guess it's lighter blue down here, and it gets slightly darker, but I've noticed when they modify the weather, it gets insanely windy, that the upper straight above you has this super dark blue. The colors change in the sky. It used to be this like baby blue, or this kind of blue. Yeah, it's gorgeous out today. But this is the last sort of nice day before the cold sets in. It's sunny.
Well, would you say, do you think it's clear today because of how windy it is here?
Yeah, but then once again, how much of the wind is normal and how much is not, because
These are all questions people should ask, because we'll have to record the sky more often. Here's our first example, but today's really clear skies. We're not trying to show you that these are like chemtrail skies or these are all chemical clouds. It's not our point. We're just having this conversation out here in some beautiful scenery, and we're observing that today the skies are actually really clear, and it's super windy today. It's so windy, in fact, that my fence blew over. But doesn't that just seem like something worth questioning? We get some big winds and then the skies are clear, like maybe the stuff that's getting sprayed into it is completely getting swept away like a broom. So
it's nice. I love getting out on days like this, because most days the sky is packed with that shit. Remember when we went for a walk, you can see huge strands of
2 weekends ago.
Yeah, you're breathing that in.
2 weekends ago, if we recorded the skies, they were all flushed out, chemical spray, and it was literally coming down in like these long fibers. And if you just had your eyes open, you saw them come down maybe every 2 minutes or so as you were just walking out in the nature. And I was literally impacted in the face. Not like it hurts or you feel that much, but it's just this thing that comes down and your vision hits your face and almost disintegrates, but it's like a fiber that looks like a very thin spider web. And we were just wishing the whole world could have been there to experience it, to say there's got to be something going on in the sky. So anyway, talking too much, back to Tim.
Oh yeah, well, I guess my main worry is that it's nature itself, right? So I'm a gardener and lived in in nature, should I say, and I've noticed and I've seen papers now of the insect population is declining rapidly. It's gone down like 75% over the last 25 years, and that's like the krill of the land. That's what all the little critters eat that go all the way up to the big critters. The whole life cycle, and that's being lost, and it's leaving us, and most people don't even notice. I haven't seen any orb spinners, spiders this year, not for at least 2 years. And I know people are going to say, well, I saw some, but they used to be everywhere. They used to be on everything.
Right.
All of this grass would have little spiders on it, and they would have little webs, and there was grasshoppers everywhere. All the insects was super abundant. I mean, even yourself, you notice that you can drive all the way to, across the country, and you don't get insects on your windshield like you used to, if any at all. And to me, this is a scary time. I've noticed that just around where I live, there's no more skunks, no more chukar, no more pheasant. All the larger wildlife has died back. There's fewer coyotes, there's fewer foxes, there's fewer bears. Everything is on the decline. And what worries me is not just for those, animals. I love sharing the planet with all life forms, but it's the notion of what if there's a societal collapse? What are we going to hunt to eat? I mean, well, you'll just have to farm, but how many of you have seeds? And I farm, but the hardest part about farming is preserving the food and holding it over winter. Like, I could grow huge abundance, but how do I store it for December? Like, all those skills are being lost. We're coming to this epicenter, I think, of where the people that have those skills to survive without technology are dying off and will be gone, and then the rest of us don't know it or don't know well how to survive off the land. And not only that, there won't be any land to survive off of. And I can't say it's the chemtrails, I can't say it's, or I guess that's slave speak, I can't say it's planes making clouds that then the debris rains down. It could be a bunch of things. It could be that in combination with Roundup. It could be that in combination with, I do think they are using some sort of electromagnetic pulses, if it's not from, HARP and stations like that around, but maybe even like, I don't know, maybe it's the 5G towers, and maybe the towers have been doing it sooner than later. But things are on a decline. Everything is going down, and no one seems to notice. No one seems to care. I don't understand that. And we've become pacified as beings. And maybe I am too. I'm not saying I'm not part of that. I mean, I got to worry about, there's been doomsdayer predictions forever. So, 100% I could be wrong, and I'll have to have a retirement. In my opinion, everything's coming to a head, and it's going to be like, well, I think it's in the 2024. So, it'll be not the next presidential election, it'll be the one after. And, all of this comes to a head. It just scares me, that no one can see this. People like you and I are the weird, crazy people, but, I don't know, dude. the chemtrails drive me nuts.
Well, you just said it right there. I mean, that's it. For all of us who see it, we're the weird, crazy people in our society. It's like, I think we're just the people that are concerned about our survival.
Right. And not only that, I love a lot that is in nature. I love a lot that makes this planet beautiful and makes every region beautiful, and to see the little things go. And part of, of this region that's gorgeous is just like what we saw just moments ago, which was like a little sparrowhawk, a tiny little hawk that's no bigger than a sparrow going after little birds. And then, the last time we went for the hike, we saw that huge 3x3 and that big, the big horned owl that we stumbled across. I went to that same area and I saw this crazy scene where it was a ton of birds that moved into a bunch of these miniature little caves up on the cliffside. And right above it, a big huge snake, a big rattler. It was one of the biggest I've seen, and he just lives there. I love to see the wildlife, and I hate to see it go. And I don't have any children, but I worry for other people's children. Everything seems dystopian. It isn't the future. It unfortunately is now. And I feel like none of us are primed to see it and fight back or can. And chemtrails is, to me, one of the biggest planes that make clouds are one of the biggest examples. I mean, you can literally see it above you. You can see the debris on the ground. I guess it is a greater leap to think that, then connected to weather modification. But once you kind of research a little bit of that, it's easy to understand. You just heat up part of the atmosphere, it rises up, creating a high pressure ridge, and then you direct the weather patterns around it. It makes easy sense. I think, and couple it with modern technology, I'm sure it's easier to predict where things go and how they function.
I'm thinking if we're right about the weather modification and what's going on in the world, they're going to want to make where we are now have better weather in the winter. So people in the cities that are getting overcrowded might be more willing to come here.
And what is this, like 50 some degrees? It should be like in the upper 30s or low 40s.
It's very warm out here. I could be out here in a t-shirt.
Yeah,
So.
it's remarkably warm. What is this, November 3rd?
4th? Yeah. We're getting deeper into fall here.
Yeah, it truly makes me regret not buying more apples. But and the seasons have passed. Yeah, it's kind of too bad in a way because I hate the winter and I hate the snow, but as a gardener, farmer kind of guy, I like the cold weather to kind of reset the land. But I guess those times have passed too. In a way, it killed back a lot of insects, but there's fewer insects. Most of the plants I grew didn't have any insect problems at all. Which I guess people hear that and think, oh man, that's good for you, but I worry. I don't want all the living creatures to disappear. It's not good. I mean, like over here, I'm just witnessing flocks of birds move in these crazy patterns, and all those birds eat all the little insects, and where are we going? But I guess part of me too is these things seem old, extremely old patterns. They're not even like the last 10, 100 years. These things go back like ancient patterns. There's civilizations rising and falling.
Well, even not going back so far, what a lot of Americans and people in the world aren't privy to is the fact that our world militaries have admitted that they've been modifying weather since the middle of the 1900s.
Yeah.
The UK came out in 52. The Royal Air Force had been experimenting in 52, accidentally caused some flash flooding that hurt people. And then the United States came out and admitted they did it to Vietnam to flood out the troops that were dependent on their feet. So that was in the 60s. I mean, it's literally 50 years later since that stuff's been admitted in the world. More than that. And people act like it's just a conspiracy theory when in fact it's just a fact of our reality. It's like facts of our reality have been dubbed conspiracy theories. And this is one of those things. The chemicals in the sky that people don't want to see. So.
And you can't hear it in the news, right? So the Emirates or the Saudis have rain once a week in some of their cities. China was modifying the weather for the Olympics when it was there. It happens all the time and everywhere, but people think you're crazy if you say anything about it. Maybe it seems too grand. Maybe it's the same thing with 9/11, is that once you realize elements within your own government were involved in that, it kind of rips your mind apart a little bit at first, to think that there's greater things than governments at play that affect all of our lives, and it's happening around us. And maybe it's even too, people don't want to hear about it, and I get this part is, and I'm part of this where you're a working class person. You got to do your 40 hours. You have to go to work. You're stuck in the grind. Like I was telling you, this last job I was doing like 60 hours of just cutting tubes for an airplane frame. It's boring as crap. Like, what can you do? Like, there's nothing. What can I do? And the best I can contrive, right, is to educate yourself, try to make other people more aware, try to fight the system on an individual level, try to grow your own food, try to eat healthier, try to approach people in a healthier manner, because I realized the first time I realized a lot of this was going on, you want to just run around to people, don't you know what's happening? Come on, wake up, look. And that doesn't work, it doesn't work at all. People have to, I guess the modern vernacular is red pill. They have to red pill themselves. You can't red pill anyone. They have to do it for themselves. And that's just the way it goes. And this weather modification to me is one of the biggest signs of like, we're in the dystopian future. What do you do? What happened? And what's going to happen? But, it's not even the weather. It's the rise and fall of humanity and empires. I mean, is this the pattern we're witnessing? So even though it does feel as doomed to me, it's just the normal cycle. Or is this like something, like an evolutionary, like I was saying, like we are on the verge of some... Evolution is supposed to be long term, but what if like we actually can modify our own genes and it goes in big jumps rather than small little increments,
Well, think about this. In terms of the extent of the lies and misinformation in our society, and, books such as 1984 warning that those who control the present, those who control the past, and those who control the past control the present. What if, a system was installed over multiple generations to give us this completely false understanding of world history that makes us believe in these cycles and just think that it's inevitable. And so we're just like, well, I guess this is just what we learned about our whole lives, the rise and fall of Rome, and we're the modern Rome, and we're falling right now. It seems to be understood. I mean, if you just turn on popular TV and you listen to hosts, they're like, where are values at? I mean, what is going on in the world? It's just like everything is just so horrible. So, I mean, if like you're a young person and you have like a sense of what's good and bad and you're watching TV, you're like, God, the world is just pretty bad. And, I mean, there's a lot of things that are bad about the world, but one thing I don't think we mentioned yet was how, in terms of the skies, how celebrities such as Prince, the musician, came out on public television once upon a time on the Tavis Smiley Show and said that they're putting these chemicals in our sky to influence behavior. What do you think about that?
Well, I do find that interesting because on other podcasts, I can't remember at the moment, it has been coming up where, the government or elements within the government were like spraying lithium over cities in Oregon. I know they were spraying something else like over, I think it was in St. Louis. This is where, when we're at home research.
Wouldn't it make sense to do it in Oregon, though, in light of it being the Pacific Northwest where the best-selling band with the name Lithium is out of?
Oh, really?
Nirvana.
Oh, yes. God, I love Nirvana.
Not very far away.
But I've heard other things too, and this is what I've witnessed too, is that, I work the swing shift, so I come home at 2:30 a.m. and I've noticed they're spraying at night, and when you catch it against the moon, it had a weird color to it. And I didn't understand this, because if you take what average people would see it, right, and the entry-level conspiracy is it's global warming, they're spraying there to reflect the sunlight, to keep the planet cooler so it doesn't heat up fast. Okay, you could say, okay, government, I understand, thank you for saving us. But then you wouldn't need to do it at night. So things have been happening at night. It had a weird tinge to the moon. I started to hear other people saying, oh, they're spraying lithium every now and then on us, And then, a few days ago, they had that Vox article thing where they want to put lithium, or they were hypothesizing that it would be good to put lithium in the water where suicide rates are higher, and it reduces suicide rates by like 40%. And it just, like you were saying, where things are introduced into our consciousness to get us kind of to accept it and go along with it, I can't but help wonder if things like that are going on. And, I don't know, diseases, all sorts of crazy diseases. I do think that if it's not GMOs, it's, and I need to research it more, but it would be called Morgellons disease. Morgellons is where your skin gets a reaction from the spray or the contrails or the fibers that are on the ground, the chaff, right? So every single person I know, or most, have like what they would say is a small little eczema patch on their body, right? And more and more people I notice have it. Now it's the only way I've ever had eczema or managed eczema is you're eating some sort of food that's giving you an allergy that's manifesting on your skin. So then you have to stop eating that food and it goes away. But all the people that I've known that have tried to do that, it doesn't go away. it stays there, and it's a small little irritating patch on your skin. And I'm starting. I mean, I think it comes from the I'll just say chemtrails. You know, I think it comes from that. I think we're all slowly feeling the effects of it, and not only that too. I feel like energy levels, just people are just sort of more lethargic in a sense. I don't know.
Sure.
A lot of this is hypothesis because I can just do as much research and witnessing as I can. You know, I'm just a working class dude, so I don't have the means to like get tests or figure it out. I mean, maybe over time, but to me, it doesn't even seem like it would matter because the stranglehold of the powers that be have everyone's mind. You could show them 100% proof that's happening. You could point to the sky, you could point to all this tests, and they still would think you're crazy, wouldn't believe it.
And that's when you start to think about mass mind control,
Yeah.
and you start to think about how from a young age we're told things like, if you smoke this marijuana, it could make you a murderer, a rapist, ruin your whole life, end up in prison. And then, you know, you're that teenager in the room and you try some weed and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't so bad. Actually, I feel pretty good about life right now. And you're like, why was my whole life the government telling me that if I did this, I was going to become like a Charlie Manson? And that's a whole nother subject, but, you know, it's just like, you realize it's all about mind control, because you also remember, for people who smoke weed and have experimented with, you know, hallucinogenic drugs and whatnot, you know, there's positives to all things and there's negatives to all things. But people who've experimented and done it right, they've had these life-changing moments. They woke up to something, they learned a question, and then, you know.
I agree, and I'm guilty of things as much as anybody. I do think all is mind, and it's about managing your perception and your thoughts and your ideas, and it's extremely difficult because life is moving so fast, and a lot of us have to work. It's hard to like go back over the day. Oh, why did I react this way? Oh, because I learned that 4 years ago. Okay, I believe that. Okay, it's
Cowpath theory.
Yeah, it's like I misinterpret this. It's very hard to do, you know, because time is moving so quick. And like, for example, me, I have like 10.5-hour shifts. So by the time I get home, I don't have time to, you know, dissect my behavior from that day. I'm just tired as crap, you know. But then you don't necessarily learn and grow and find those weird things in life that we're all doing, but we're just not conscious or aware of. Yeah, all is mind management. It's very difficult. But you know, what are all the sort of religions and sages and all this stuff is all the answers are found within, you know. You have to go inside and find out why you do the things you do, and then you realize that's why everyone is doing what they're doing. You know, we're all sort of same in that sense. You know, there's underlying actions to us, but you know, it is all his mind, and that's, you know, what I guess that we're just talking about it to enlighten people, because I don't feel like you know, I can fight the power in some sense. Maybe this is fighting the power, speaking up, because most people's minds will not take it, will not accept it. I've been perceived as a crazy person, yet, you know, I wish we all could band together and fight it, because I would love to come out to places like this and go for a walk and know that I'm not breathing that shit in, I'm cleaning my lungs out, I'm doing something healthy for my body, rather than now I think, shit, I go for a walk and I'm just like powering that stuff into my lungs, you know? The greater respiration rate or breathing rate is like just forcing it into my lungs. That's such as like, oh, see, you can see where they sprayed off the distance there, but that's where you can see where the clouds are.
It's going on right now, I think.
You know, and you know it's not contrails either, because it starts and stops. If it were contrail, it'd follow the plane the whole length. At least in my opinion. I'm sure that, you know, online there'll be comments of like, you don't know what you're talking about. I see,
yeah, but
like far in the distance.
This what's in the sky though reminds me of what it was like growing up. You'd see a plane go through the sky, they'd streak it like that. You look up there in 5 minutes, it's probably almost all the way gone.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I mean, it's just so common to see it up there, and it's like, well, wait a minute.
Right.
I saw that hours ago, and it is looking uglier than it did hours ago. What is going on?
Yeah.
And you know, you point that out to people, and they're like, are you saying chemtrails? See, I don't think you should use that word, because that's, the media has already programmed the public with that term and how bogus this is. This is like what your next school shooter thinks, chemtrails. You know, because they like associate these things with all their negative propaganda. They're like, he was into chemtrails, he thought the government was a conspiracy. You're like, look at what they're doing. They're making it seem like If you're a crazy person, these are the things.
Well, that gets back to that video of Jim Lee. So you guys, whoever's hearing this, check his YouTube channel out. He researches all the weather modification history of what's going on, and he did a video about slave speak, versus like free speech, in a sense that chemtrails is definitely a slave speech kind of word, or a master slave word. And I'm not sure I understand the master slave. Anyways, the whole point is that they've funneled us into using certain language that can be interpreted in lots of different ways, right? Like chemtrails, it can be interpreted in many different ways. Versus saying planes are making clouds, then it's less, there's less to interpret there, because you literally can see these planes are making clouds. So you can't argue that fact. Versus chemtrails, you can argue the fact of like, no, they're contrails, they're not doing that, they're not doing this. It's why would they spray? You go down a crazy rabbit hole, but don't go down the rabbit hole and use language that's that has less room for wiggle, because you can see the cloud, you can see the planes, and you can see them making clouds. You can't deny that fact. So
most of us who've looked at the sky in the summer on a beautiful blue day will see some planes make some nonsensical crisscross patterns, and then you come out a few hours later and now it's not a beautiful blue sky. It's this hazy, hazed over thing, and it's like, this doesn't seem natural. I swear to God, I saw those planes up there. I don't remember a single day as a child where the blue sky turned to a whitey mist, just from 6 trails, big trails, left over a major city or whatever geographical location you're in.
So, I don't know what. So, and part of like doing this is, some of my frame of mind is like, is trying to explore like people that hear this. How then do you take this information and go forward? How do you survive? Another day knowing things. How do you move forward? Like, because we were discussing like, let's buy a property, or you buy a property and then you hold on to it for 20 years and then you
We'd have to organize a society and do things like that in a smart way to get common sense back. Growing organic food, keeping it clean.
So just on an individual level, and trying to like, I help you guys out, you help me out, just try to connect more community-wise is one good idea. I like that idea, because I sort of missed the notion of everyone having a small garden, and there was like a pickle guy, and there was the jam guy, and then you would trade your pickles to the guy who made jam, and then, there's the pumpkin guy, because it's really hard to do all that yourself. I've tried to do jam and pickles and preserve all the food, but then it becomes so much work, and then it's hard to really become like a really really good expert at something. Like, your pickles are the best, and people will kill other people for your pickles. You don't get that way though if you just do 3 or 4 jars, or 10 jars, and then you're done. You got to do hundreds of jars and get your recipe down.
Or if everybody figures out the best way to do pickles in your community, you just share the knowledge and everybody's making the great pickles and you don't have to fight over it anymore.
Truly. But see, that gets back to other mind programming stuff. Is like, I feel like we're all been pitted against each other. It's divide and conquer, men against women, black against white, poor against rich. Even though I can kind of see the poor against rich a little bit, because our upper class has really spun out of control as far as like accumulating money and power. And if you think of them as a ruling class, they haven't done a very good job. This country is feels like it's in chaos. I personally, I think we're being primed for some sort of large governmental change. I think that's what Donald Trump is like he's to put energy in the pendulum, so the pendulum is swinging back and forth.
Absolutely. Chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And so
it's the wrecking ball.
Exactly. So the left are super energized, right? They hate this guy, he's a Nazi. So when their time comes to put their man in, it's probably going to be an extreme person, and that's 2024. And it's been primed where we have accepted a non-professional as president, right? So normally in the past, wasn't it like a congressman or a governor, or it was a politician? And we kind of accepted that they have some experience, they've been in the system, they know what to do. Now we've been primed to take someone that, whether or not you like him, I'm not criticizing him. I've liked some things he's done, I haven't liked some things he's done. I'm not getting making a judgment here, but he has lied about some stuff, and he is kind of creative when he talks, and so we've kind of been primed to take that kind of person. So this is even though he's not really a righty, he was like a Democrat, wasn't he? It was
His
kind
whole
of
life
left.
until Obama became president. Then the
Exactly.
birther thing started, and then the next thing you knew, he was the guy to replace Obama.
Right. But now he's left. He's considered. Pardon me. He's considered righty.
Right.
So then, who's going to be the left person? Like we were talking about this last time. Have we seen that person? Have they surfaced and it's been introduced into our consciousness and we
I'm
don't
sure.
know it yet? Like, have we seen the dictator? We'll see. Because I don't think it's Trump. I think Trump.
Can you imagine if it was Nancy Pelosi?
That woman is crazy. But have you seen? There was, I forget where it was. It was like leaked that a certain percentage of the House or the Senate were getting like what is it? Alzheimer medication, right? And everyone's trying to figure out who's getting the Alzheimer medication. It has to be Nancy Pelosi because she says crazy things.
She's like Cruella DeVille's cousin. I don't think anybody likes Nancy. She's proof of the illegitimate democracy. I don't believe anyone casts a vote for her.
No, or how could even Debbie Wasserman Schultz have won so many times?
Just so many of these people. There's just so many goony people in politics. Like, dude, no one would ever like you. Goodness.
No, I mean, well, what's the high impact vlogs or whatever is got a shirt like the voting block is or voting is suggestion for slaves. It's like
it is. It's like it's like validating a bankrupt system.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Came out not a month ago? Was it like a 10-year-old or 11-year-old hacked the voting machine in like 10 minutes and an adult did it like in 3 and totally changed all the information?
You can already see what's going to happen this weekend. Georgia coming out with the saying the Democrats hacked the Republicans. They've been doing this back and forth for years now, the two parties. This is like the probably fifth, it probably goes back at least to the mid-2000s, this thing about online voting machines, hacking, tipping elections. This is now becoming a normal part of our discourse too, which is just one more layer of confusion ultimately. It's like, how do I know what to think? Are my elections illegitimate? I mean, so many people have already known long before the computer age the elections are legitimate, but it just gives more confusion. So.
And then I get back to start thinking of like, how much of that is natural or how much is contrived, because I've heard of the notion, I don't know if it was the CIA or elements within our government, is like they want the people to be so confused they don't know what's correct or not correct, and then you have really good control over everyone. And we're pretty much to that point, I think. It's the debunk for the debunks out there. There's different facts, there's different information, no one really knows. You're just getting divided left and right based upon just well, it's not silly stuff, like if you're a modern day conservative or righty, a lot of people are drawing their lines based on like free speech and things like that, which is important, but you're still just getting divided, it's, and kind of too, when we're all closer together than we think, even the Antifa versus conservative, right? Because like the Antifa are saying, if you take it on face value, right, that they're fighting against fascism, and the conservative in some regards is arguing that they want to keep their gun to make sure to protect themselves against like a fascist government. In some ways they are kind of arguing the same things, but they're being pitted against each other. And I think Antifa is totally just state driven. It fits the agenda too much. After all the presidential signing statements, the power elites in the government want chaos because then they can assert control over the population and a sense of like, it's like,
give me a reason. Right. Give me a reason.
Exactly. It's like you're playing right into the hands, because if those people, the Antifa and the Patriot Prayer groups or whatever, really wanted to make a change, you wouldn't be battling each other. You would do the old school Martin Luther King way, which you would go in peace. You would go to change minds. You wouldn't go to fight. And when they threw sticks and rocks at you, you wouldn't react. You wouldn't get angry. And I know people hear it and it sounds counterintuitive of like, no, you gotta, those little beta male, middle class Antifa brats, just want communism and stuff. Yeah, but you're never gonna change their mind by mirroring them, being the mirror to them as the conservative, fighting back. And I get people's instincts to do that, but you have to merge the two groups together, which is, it's a more evolved way of thinking. But if you're going to make any change, it's the way you would do it. But none of that's happening. It's all it's all just fighting each other, which is
Exactly, and the only way we could ever overcome the system we're on is to build a better system by working together.
Yeah.
So.
But, you know, I kind of like that notion, though, what you just said there, of how it's kind of evolving us in a sense. Like, more and more people are discussing on, like, how to govern ourselves, you know, how are we going to move forward? How do we deal with societal problems, you know, like, versus the classic responses of, like, socialism and communism and capitalism or a democratic republic, you know. What are the solutions? And I like that there is sort of an undertone of people thinking about it. How are we going to organize ourselves? I guess I'm finding myself to be more pessimistic than most people I know. I think this is too far down the road that the people won't be able to save themselves from the change. All I can hope is that Mother Nature is more wily than we are, and that something happens to prevent, like, sort of, you know, this dystopian takeover of humanity. You know, like, I always wished, and I know this sounds horrible that we're recording and we're going to put it over technology and the phone and stuff, that some sort of virus or bacteria would start that eats away technology and destroys all computers and all digital information. It kind of sets things back to kind of like a little bit of a soft restart, right? Because the military and the government have power over us due to technology, right? So, like,
Right.
yeah, I got my guns, but I can't fight some sort of direct energy weapon, or you know, the Cobra helicopter will be on the other side of the valley and will see me and could kill me from way over there, and there's no way I could be able to shoot it. So in some regards, we're kind of screwed in this system we've created. So how would you set it back? And, you know, people-driven movement to do it seems difficult versus a Mother Nature stepping in, you know, and which makes me even, you always bring this up of the preconditioning of the mind, makes me wonder if that's even preconditioned, because we've seen more and more evidence of, like, ancient civilizations that have risen and fallen, and, you know,
It's like, how much history is getting left out of these history books that we read over and over?
or it's being reintroduced to, like you said, produce in the mind the notion of, like, maybe there does need to be a reset. Maybe we do need to let this happen. Maybe we do need they know better, and there does need to be less humans in it. And what is it, 300 million, or whatever the Georgia Guidestones number is?
500 million.
500 million. You know, maybe that
People don't think about the math of that, though. 500 million. If you guys don't know what the Georgia Guidestones are, they're in this small town in Georgia up on some hills. Massive pillars, very expensive, a lot of logistics to get them there. 10 modern-day commandments etched out in stone. And honestly, 2 through 10, none of them are really so terrible or alarming, but it's that first thing on there. Maintain the Earth's population at 500 million. And if that were true, if it's true that 7 billion people live in the world, and that's another thing, it's like, do more people live in the world? Do less? I mean, I don't have any way to prove it.
That's a good point, you know?
But even if it's the number that's accepted, if it is 7 billion, if that's the honest number, that would mean 13 out of 14 people had to die to get to that number. And those are things to think about, too. A lot of people say, well, that's probably just some practical joke. But even if it's a practical joke, it was somebody who had a lot of money and probably influence in the world.
Right.
The kind of world we live in, big money. And there obviously are these types of ideas floating in the world. Like, I'm sure a lot of, what are the years? Agenda 21 and Agenda
2030.
2030.
Yeah.
So a lot of you guys, some people might have never heard about that, but others have. There's supposedly these real official, you know, government and major world government plans to really modify this planet, including reduce the population. And, you know, we were saying, could this stuff all be just stuff that's put out there for people seeking truth to get all this fear and paranoia that's not even true? Or are these things that we should actually consider in light of, you know, the many other things happening in the world, from wars that are now waging for about 2 decades that the U.S. are involved in, to the rhetoric in the media, all the threats, the supposed weapons that exist, just all the different signs around us. I mean, the chemicals in the sky, the fact that we have politicians that literally go to Congress and pass bills so that we cannot know what's in our food. I mean, think about that. We're paying for people to literally create legislation so we can't know what's in our food. We're paying for that. And this is what we're told as government, and we should trust in and believe in. And it's like nobody's stopping for even a second to think about what our government's really up to. You know, don't ever forget, get on a subject here, but really it's all related. Don't ever forget, though, that the original definition of terrorism is government by intimidation. And I think part of the reason nobody wants to speak out about what's happening in the skies is because they're fearful of ridicule and punishment, which is something we all grow up with, most of us, especially being in this public school system. So.
And funny you say that. I mean, I can't but help wonder if, like, Facebook and Twitter weren't created to kind of enforce that kind of ridicule and
in record time.
Yes.
In massive numbers. Oh, all of a sudden your post is being shared by all these strangers you don't really know who are friends of your Facebook friends you don't really know, and you're like, God, look at all these things being written about me in the world.
Right. It to me, it's always felt suspicious. I mean, because those two platforms are able to really manage people's thoughts quite well. I haven't gotten on either, but it's mostly just because, you know, they're pretty much cancer. The comments are so horrible, whether or not it's true, whether or not it's trolls, you know, or bots or whatever. You know, it's really bad for your mind. But I think they have influenced public opinion, what goes on. I wonder, I was thinking about this, like the Me Too movement. I can't but help wonder if that was created by a political party in order to do what they did with Judge Kavanaugh. You know, being able to, like, prime the people's minds to be able to just say, make accusations without a lot of proof and make it go through and everyone's behind it, and then flip that back onto judicial nominees. You know, even though I think a lot of it's just like an act. You know, I don't think most of what we're seeing is real anyways, but taken on face value, I felt like it was a power move. So then all they have to do is any judicial nominees, they can just say, they just use like a Me Too kind of mindset, just accuse them of something horrendous, some sort of sexual crime. Everyone jumps on board, and you know, they just go with it. But I'm not sure. You know, those are just thoughts. But I've always felt that they use I'm not going to say the words on here, but the child P blank RN is used as a way to disappear dissidents. And the way I kind of connected that was with the brother of the shooter from Las Vegas. When he started to speak out, oh, my brother couldn't do that. What's going on? This couldn't happen. Boom. Suddenly they find that stuff on his computer. He disappears. No one hears anything from him. We all think, oh, good, they got that.
He was like maybe his one brother's evidence or hope in the wind in the world, and they just get rid of him. Because, I mean, you got to think about it, people. How many of you don't have anybody in the world? I know there's a lot of people out there on YouTube right now. You might just have one person, like a sibling, and imagine if that was the one person you could vouch for, and you were having a crime pinned on you, and you're like, damn, I was just here. They just murdered my ass. I was just here to play some cards this weekend.
Right.
And that person literally could have been chosen because they had the right psychological profile. Maybe they did have some social media posts that the government was aware of, so they could say, see, this person's kind of crazy. Isn't this some crazy things that they wrote? But God, imagine if you could see everybody's social media. Like, I got some uncles that would look like, you know.
It's funny you say that, because that's what I've been thinking about. So what is it, the MAGA bomber or whatever that bomber guy's supposed to be?
Living in a van? How easy is it to murder the guy in the van, living in his van?
Yes, and he's putting all this stuff on social media. All they have to do is, like, they just find the crazy people are letting themselves be known, and then you can just pick them out. Okay, this guy's clearly said stuff. We don't even need to fake many things. We just blame it on him, and no one's going to argue. I think a lot of things
the game plan's
that.
like one short memo. It's like, shoot guy in white van here, GPS coordinates. We got the press, crazy person. We got one YouTube post, one Twitter. He's done.
Exactly. And if he's a homeless guy or doesn't have a lot of family, no one's going to argue about it. No one's going to say anything. It makes the impact, and it just keeps.
He might be that guy that the whole world hates. They're like, hell yeah.
Exactly.
Hell yeah, I hated that guy.
All right. That gets back to my theory that child P blank RN is being used to disappear people, because that's what everyone thinks. They're like, fuck that guy, burn him, get him, you know, and which is, I'm saying that's justified, but it's done in a way where it's like, you can't see the evidence. You wouldn't want to see the evidence. I don't know if it's illegal for them to even, like, send you the evidence. Like, if it was your brother and you're like, prove it. They can't send you the evidence. You're not going to watch that horrendous stuff. Not only that, I don't think they can legally do it to you. So it's like this perfect way of disappearing people, and we all just go along with it. We're in a weird world, man. Just doing this podcast, I think, is going to be dangerous. Just putting yourself out there is dangerous nowadays. But, you know, if you believe like what I believe, we, you know, what is this, almost the end of 18, there's only about 11 really good years left. Maybe not even that. Maybe 6 good years left. So, screw it. Maybe open a bunch of minds and going down this rabbit hole. And I'll confess this, it's not necessarily unfun. It kind of is fun, kind of finding all this stuff that's been hidden right under your nose this whole time and people haven't really realized. I kind of do enjoy it, and I think that's probably why I'm doing this podcast, is I've kind of become a little bit of like not an internet junkie, but trying to find this stuff, kind of root stuff out, trying to see where the deception is, what's real history, what's not, because more and more it seems like so much of everything was a lie told to us, and it's like used to manufacture our consent to like create the state that we're in, where we have this huge military industrial complex that's doing all this dystopian stuff to us, and we're all just going along with it. And it's truly, things are fiction, or reality is stranger than fiction in a way. It truly is. And it's, to me, it was miraculous when you woke up and realized this. It's like kind of being reborn in a way. But on the other hand, it is scary. It does feel doomsday-ish. There does seem to be some sort of culmination going on between technology and action, and the fervent kind of nature that we're all feeling, kind of the divide and conquer. So I don't know, man. I just try to live as much as I can, and hopefully, you and I can team up and gain a little more of our freedom, and make and do some fun things, before the time has passed. But we'll see.
Do you think it's possible at this day and age, based on how people struggle to cooperate, that you could take like an area of land where we're standing and create like a community of people with similar values who work together to take care of each other and grow food? Or do you think that those days are past, there's just too many bad apples out there and it'd be infiltrated and who knows what else?
I think you could, but I think it would have to be extremely small. I think it would have to go back almost to like even smaller than like a tribal group, maybe like 2 families worth, because I do think that the system is working to sort of prevent that. And what I mean by that is like, I don't know this accurate, I would have to research, but like say in Florida, it's illegal to harvest your own rainwater. You can't be off the grid, right? Because Florida has all that sunshine. You could put up solar panels and battery bank and live off the grid. You could, there's more sun there, you can do it, but that it's illegal now not to have some sort of grid connection.
Sure.
You have to have all of that.
That's Big Brother's control thing.
And especially here now, all new houses that are built where we're at, out in the boonies here, all the wells will have to have some sort of monitoring on them to account for how much water you're taking out of your well, which it used to be there was none of that. You don't have like a monitor on your well. That's crazy. You're not buying it. What you're paying for the water is the electricity being used to pump it. So the county can't then tax you based upon water consumption. And we're going down a crazy path. And like you said, I think people have the instinct to do it. No,
the thing is, all along the path, nobody's questioning.
No.
Or except for the people who are labeled conspiracy theorists, crazy people, now being associated in every crazy story in the news. They're all people questioning certain things in this world that aren't supposed to be questioned. And
I find it would be hard to find people because also too, it's you're battling a lot of things, right? Like even technology addiction, right? So if you were to have your own farm, like mini farm with like say 2 families, maybe a total of like say 12 people, it's the dedication of labor isn't, and the ability to work hard isn't what it used to be. Like everyone sort of had that instinct, I feel like, or a lot of people did, and now I think it's fewer and far in between that everyone has that instinct to work hard, to get it done, get out there and make it happen. Because the farm your own food, it's just not the labor of making the food and getting the plants to grow, planting it. It's the labor of like processing and saving and canning and drying. I mean, it's a lot of work. And so, but I think it would be out there. I think you would have to go to, well, the community we are in might be good. You could find people. I don't know. I think it would be difficult, and I think it would be like an old farm, right? So it would last father was a strong leader. Like, say you did it, you could make it happen till you got too old to do it, and then I think it would fall apart. Unless you had like a son that really, or daughter that really believed in it, and like a child could take over with, like in their 20s, that had a lot of energy and vibrancy to, like, and loved it. But I think it would be a challenge. I think it would be awesome. I have a younger brother that's talked about that really the save ourselves are small communities that we take care of each other and grow our own food and try to pool our resources, and that also makes me think of how far we've come from what Americans were thought they were or should be, or what this country was created to be, of like on face value, not hidden history kind of things, but that every man was their, or every person was their own sort of kingdom, and you controlled your mind, and you were under your own destiny, and you had land, and you could be your own kind of castle and king. And that's really gone away, even in our own minds. To start a community, I think, would be tough. Everyone, it's almost like as though people have accepted the specialization, which you kind of have to, right? To make the money, you have to become specialized. I'm more of a jack of all trades, but then I don't make a lot of money. The people I know that make a lot of money know how to do one thing really well, but they can't like grow their own food. They can't, paint a painting. They can't wire or build a house. They can't, do any kind of electrical, calculations. But they can, like my brother-in-law, he runs like the tech department for a large food, or a large not food but fruit shipping place, and he makes really good money. He makes like 120 grand a year. He makes bank, but he's really good at that. But he couldn't grow any food. He's trying to lecture me on how to grow food, which he had just eaten a dinner of every single thing I had grown.
Right.
And he's like, oh, we have to have GMOs because this and that. And I'm like, dude, that is so bogus. You don't need GMOs. What we need is just to
And
grow
the evidence
smart.
is like literally on his plate.
Yes, and I was like, dude, go out. My plants
That's what I mean, man. That's just like the chemicals in the sky. Like, today's a beautiful day, and that's part of the reason I'm glad we're photographing it, because there's not many days like this.
Yeah, it turned out to be really nice.
And I think it's because of the wind. The wind blew it all away, or made it impossible for them to do their little whatever they do.
God, it pisses me off, though, that things of the past and what I want to keep, like these clouds the normal clouds are so gorgeous. The normal color of the sky is just, it sings to your heart. And it's so sad to see all this crap on the side, to see all the wind when it used to not be windy here all the time. Now it's windy all the time.
To make a point, I have a brand new house and the fence blew down.
Yes, it's the winds used to be created from, like, near us is a town called Ellensburg, where they're higher up in the mountains, and so they get the effect of the cooling air and the coming down and the warm air rising, and it was this cycle. And so that town was always known as a windy town by their location. The area that we're at now was never like that. It's all due to the weather modification. And one of the ways you know that is you can usually watch the pattern of like spray for 3 or 4 hours, roughly around sundown. We'll get these insane gusts, and you'll notice the change in the color of the sky, that the center, the very top, will become insanely dark blue. I don't know if you've ever done any high alpine hiking, but when you're really high up, like I went to the first base camp on Mount Rainier, and the sky is insanely dark blue. It's not this eggshell blue, but dark blue, and I was told it's because of the elevation. So it seems like the sky above you is being pushed up, and you can watch ripples form in the clouds as though it were like sinusoidal wave. It's like a waveform. They're striking it with some sort of electromagnetic waveform. Huge gusts, and eventually it stops. All the stuff is gone, and it like resets. And I do believe it. Some of it does come from that base that's near us, because they redid all their big antennas, all their electrical equipment and things over there. They moved it back where you can't see it. I know electricians that got out there and worked on it. They added a ton of things. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on.
That's for certain. That's why we're even talking about any of this stuff.
Oh, yeah. We got someone coming on your left down there.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. We did pretty good. We did almost an hour, which is pretty damn good.
It is good.
Yeah.
All right, until next time. Tokin with Tim.